Welcome home.
Well, good evening. My name is Jay Rothman. I am the host of the show. Welcome to Real Men, Real Talk Live. Welcome back to tonight's episode 129. Before we jump into the episode, I'd like to take a moment here to introduce my brothers, my co-hosts, and my dear friends. Mr. Evis Love Heath, the man of the land from down under. He calls Australia home. Welcome back, Evis Love.
How good is this, my brothers? All of us back on the set. The boys are back in town.
Boys are back in town. Yes, yeah. And I want to take a moment here just to thank you, Ev, for stepping in a couple of 24 hours ago when I went into a tailspin, all pun intended, and wasn't able to make the show. So thank you for stepping in and producing a beautiful show. I loved it on replay. Powerful, powerful content. You guys were all on fire, but it's good to be back tonight. Jeff Fasano, welcome back from Nashville, Tennessee. Good to see you tonight.
Good to be back, guys. It's been a while.
And of course, we have Jay Riddy coming in from somewhere in Southern California. Welcome back. You've been traveling. My understanding, you spent some time in Colorado, spending some time with family, which is always a beautiful experience. Lots of opportunities to grow, to learn, to observe, to show up as the conscious observer of ourselves and of others. I'm sure that was an opportunity for you to really to have some good times there. And of course, I think you then landed somewhere back east after, did you not?
Yeah. Explored Boston for the first time and had a blast. So
there you go.
Oh wow, that was your first time? Wow.
I passed through when I was 19, but didn't really stop and take it all in. So this was the first. It was amazing. The weekend was incredible.
So welcome back, gentlemen. As we begin the 1st of December. And we've got five episodes left in 2022 before we leap into the next year. And so we thought that for our viewers, by the way, welcome back to Real Men, Real Talk Live. We appreciate you. If you should hear something that you like or love, we invite you to tap your love button on your monitor and light us up, get us hot, get us going. If you should have any questions or comments, please drop them down into your comments section. We'll do our best to acknowledge as many as we are able to over this hour-long episode tonight, which is all about letting your old life go to live your real best one. And of course, really it's about, are we embracing lifelong learnings or are we running away from them in denial? And I'm not talking about the Nile River. I'm talking about denial within your own body temple. And so,
is that D apostrophe Nile?
Denial, man.
Like
Denial.
Jay Riddy.
There you go. There goes Jay Riddy. But in any event, since you're on the top shelf right next to me, why don't you light us up tonight, kick us off, and get us going on tonight's episode. What does this episode mean to you, letting your old life go to live your real best one?
Yeah, as always, brothers and sisters on the other side of the pond. Seen a few of you jump back in the chat there. Really excited about tonight. All the brothers back on the set. Boys are back in town. Great track there, Mary. And, it comes on the back end of when we did the show a couple of weeks ago where, unfortunately, our host with the most, Jay the Rothman, couldn't join us. But we were talking about auditing within 2022. And I guess leading into the back end of the year, many of us, we start to hopefully take some sort of account and do some sort of self-reflection and give ourselves some sort of vision or clarity into what we want to see coming into the new here, as I call it. The new here to me means the new moment, the new present that you may offer yourself as you come into each new year. But unfortunately, many of us, we like to be that old version of ourselves. Why? Because it's known, it's safe, it's secure. It keeps us in our comfort zone, but unfortunately, some of us, we may be hitting blind spots that don't align to this real version that we're talking about. Now, when I see that word real, I also see the word REEL, real, the picture that we paint for ourselves every day. You know, one of the beautifulest things that's been given back to me this year, 2022, was my honoring and my ability to be able to do art within my life and be, you know, rewarded for that, you know, to align to this birthright and gift that I've been able to share with the world. And one thing for me, with all of my art pieces, I always start with a blank piece. I let go of the old version or the old piece. So I have to start with a brand new blank canvas. I then have the tools that I want to use to paint on this particular canvas. And then I have some sort of clear picture in my mind of the destination that I want to get to. Now, if I don't have a couple of those things just to start with, then what do I paint on that picture? What am I painting on that canvas? What am I painting on my reel? I'm probably going to paint what I know, what I've always known. Something that's not going to be new for me, or something that's really going to be true or authentic that I'm talking about. Now, this metaphor that I'm giving you, and I think it's a beautiful metaphor for all of us, you know, and particularly on the panel tonight, we have all been creative in one way or another. My question is to you, my brothers and sisters, as we dive in deep tonight, are you the creator of your life? Are you ready to create the real? Ask yourself this question as we dive in deep. If you had to show 2022 a highlight reel of yourself, how would that look? Would you be proud of it? Would you be ashamed of it? Would you fear going into 2023? So yeah, man, we're going to dive in deep tonight, my brothers. What are you feeling about that?
Wow. Let's go. Rock and roll, Ev. Thank you, man.
Let's go, Wilson.
Let's light it up.
All right. Well, who's up, man? Go ahead, Josh.
Well, I'm super glad you brought that up in the opener, Ev, because that was where I was wanting to go tonight, and actually why I wore black. How many times have you all seen me wear black in the 130 episodes we've done? I think I've worn it once before, and that's because tonight I'm going to deliver some bad news with a happy ending. Not that kind of happy ending. Keep your mind out of the gutter. The bad news is that we need to accept all parts of our lives, including the bad things that happened, in order to take back our power. And what do I mean by that? Well, when we play the blame game on how we ended up where we did or whatever happened in our lives, we are putting that power outside of ourselves onto somebody else, that they had this control over us, and so therefore we weren't able to reach our goals like Ev was talking. And that is not us in control. That is not us steering the ship. That is not us moving forward in the direction that we want. So by accepting, taking responsibility for our parts in our past, now we are taking ownership. We're taking our power back. And I know, and that's the dark part, because in some ways it's a little hard to do that. And I get it. But once you do, this is the magic. Once you can accept all parts, the parts that you played in it, and we don't have to do this in a, self-bashing sort of way. It's just sort of like, look, you had certain amount of tools and limited knowledge at the time, and you did your best, and we screwed up, and that's okay. But once we're able to accept our role completely, now we are taking back our power, and now we have the power to change the future, instead of when we're stuck in this blame game. That means that other people outside of us have control of our future. So this is about coming back to self. It's about coming home to you It's about owning everything. And then that makes us the captain of our ship moving out to your dream island.
Yeah, Josh, I just want to acknowledge something that just kind of is coming through from what you shared. How often, and I'm speaking to all of us, our viewers as well, we may have an individual that really impacted our younger years, traumas, some type of pain, physical, emotional, mental, maybe sexual or spiritual even. And they may not even be alive. They may already have transitioned. Yet we're still giving our power away to them and that experience because we're still living in it as though it's still relevant, as though it's still happening or it still happened to us. And how often do we find ourselves in that state, paralyzed, because we just don't even know how to dig a way out of it other than to hold someone else accountable for our traumas or our wounds and our pain. So I guess the question for me to you guys tonight is how do we break free of that so that we can live our real best life?
You bring up a great point too, Jay, that awful things happen in life and things that are out of our control and cause a lot of deep pain. And those generally are singular events. I mean, in the case of abuse, it could be many, but looking at things after the fact, we couldn't control that moment, right? But what we do have control over is what we focus on. And if we keep playing the tape and playing the story, now we're carrying that into our present. And it's your body and brain release the same stress chemicals, whether it's happening to you right now or you're remembering it. The brain is that powerful. It doesn't know the difference.
Yep.
So we do have control over replaying it and all of the damage that does to our bodies physically with all the stress and chemicals. So yes, we are still playing a role in reliving those events.
And the other component to that too, I just want to share is that how often do we hold on to it, or we create a story around a shift, let's say in a relationship, and we create a story that may not even be true as to why it appears as though someone may have stepped out of our life. I just had that happen, and it's been on my mind, and I finally decided today to reach out to that individual. Because I realized that each time it was coming into my consciousness and I was sad and I just didn't understand the why. And I decided, you know what, why am I holding on to this energy that isn't serving me? It's not good for me. And at any moment it would kind of hijack my thoughts or hijack my moment. And so I had the courage this morning. I reached out to that individual. I sent a note. I basically said, hey, if I owe you an amends, let's talk. You know, if there's something that I've done that you have consciously stepped out, I'd like to know what it is so that I can correct it on my end if I owe you something. And if not, let's talk anyway, because I'd like to know what's happening. And
did you hear back?
Less than 10 minutes later, that individual reached out to me and we had a conversation that lasted, I don't know, I didn't track it, maybe close to an hour. But what it came down to was that there was no apology that I needed to make. He's just been really busy doing what he does. But yet, even in the conscious state that I choose to live most of my days today, I still created a story that didn't appear to be true. So that's how this thing works, you know. Jeff, what are you making of all this? I know you're biting at the pencil there to speak. So what's going on? What's up? What's on your mind?
I got a few things ruminating in my mental body. But Jay, you just said something about how we create stories around things. How we look at another person, and in your case, something comes up, and we start shifting our energy to, if we're reaching out to somebody, why this person's doing that, why that person did this, what was their motive? Oh, they're in their process, and they're right. They're not ready to really go there where I want to go. How we just keep on shifting and creating a story around other people. As opposed to simply being in our space. So, and the way we could look at this is looking at our relationships with people, even past relationships, and where we've created stories about what they're doing, what they're not doing. The most obvious one is something happens in their life or in a life, and we want to talk to them, and we simply go, well, you know what? They're not that far along in their process yet. They're not ready to go there where I want to go. And I mean, one of the things that comes is about shifting that and taking responsibility for ourselves. How we've created stories around other people of what they're doing, what they're not doing, why they might be doing this. Well, they're not that far along in their process yet. So they're not really ready to hear what I have to say. And how we could shift that energy and simply let all of that go. And then be cognizant and aware of the stories that we're creating around other people. And bring the focus back to us, and stay with us, what we're doing, how we're growing, where we're focusing our attention, where we're focusing on energy. Are we focusing on energy on all of that stuff outside of ourselves? Or we are focusing energy on our process through life, how we're nurturing ourselves? Are we focusing on energy on our old stories? I was doing that this week. My feelings, my stories surrounding not good enough surfaced. One of the things I really learned this week, though I knew it here, that really sunk in my heart, is how I know that whole not good enough scenario so well. And now, and how much when it comes up, I place my focus and energy on it. And now learning to shift the energy on the nurturing part of it and to move through that, because the nurturing part is the new part. I'm going to say that again. The nurturing part, if we want to shift into our real life, it's what are we creating new within us? What habits, patterns, rituals, behaviors are we creating new in our life through our process that can create that real life or that new life that we want to live? And for the last couple of months of my life, I mean, this year has been an amazing amount of releasing old energy, old habits, the blame game, everything in my life to really, really grow up and become the leader of my life as the adult.
Hey,
Jeff, you bring
Jeff.
up.
Go ahead, Josh.
I'm just biting at this one. Jeff, you bring up an amazing point. If we want a new future, we have to do things differently.
Exactly.
You can't expect a new future doing things the exact same way that you have been.
Yep.
It won't happen. I've tried a lot in my past. You have to, and when we start to do tight, they don't have to be monster things. Not asking you to move to Alaska and become like, a man of the tundra. You just have to make tiny choices, tiny changes, little boundaries. Tiny little things are the secret. And if you make dozens of those a day, new choices, your future is going to be new and reflect that.
No. Hey, you
That
know
was
what?
beautiful, Jeff.
What also comes up is one of the things that I've done is really opening our heart space.
Tell me more.
Really going in and opening our heart space and move through the fears, breaking down the armor that's around our heart space. The old story of that fear: if I open up my heart space, I'm going to be abandoned, betrayed. I'm whatever. If that comes up, those are the old stories. Those are the old stories of the wounded child. It's about moving. One of the things that I've really learned this year are nurturing and mindful self-compassion.
Beautiful.
Nurturing and mindful self-compassion of when things came up in our lives. One of my big things is if I made a mistake, I would beat myself up. Through mindful self-compassion, and which is about fully accepting the experience in our life and looking at the experiences in our life, making what we're doing right now in this show, in the next hour, an experience.
So I want to jump on you right now, Fasano.
Oh, please.
In a loving way. I want to acknowledge something. It's just really struck me. As you've acknowledged, 2022 for you has been a massive year of growth, of pivots, of start and stop, of pain. You've had it all. It's been a potpourri for you.
Yeah.
But what I want to acknowledge is that I don't know how many 64-year-old men are showing up committed to this process that you are committed to. Now, I don't always agree with you, and we don't have to agree. And I don't always see things. I see sometimes I see things from a different perspective, but it doesn't matter because this is your life. But what I do want to do is just take a moment to honor you, and just acknowledge, like, I don't know too many 64-year-old men that are willing to show up every single week, every single day, and then show up in a show format like Real Men Real Talk Live, and share and offload. And yeah, sometimes we dump a little bit, but that's okay. It's part of the process. But I want to just say to you, kudos to you, because this is not, you've heard me say it 129 times or more in every episode. Simple, not easy. And most people would rather bury themselves in the old patterns or the old wounds and not seek freedom from that. And you've been on this trajectory for as long as I've known you, and I'm sure you've been on it long before I knew you. But so anyway, this is a moment for Jeff Fasano. So thank you for showing up. And I know sometimes it's not pretty, right, guys?
Hardly ever.
Right.
Last, starting at the end of September through October, even through a lot of November, my internal journey has not been pretty at all. And but to show that this is all energy, in that time period, I've lost 15 pounds. And I wasn't.
I mean, you released them, right?
That I've released.
Thank you.
15 pounds of armor and energy around me, without going. I wasn't on a diet. I wasn't doing anything special, but I released 15 pounds of armor and energy around me. That through the work that I've been doing and through the very deep stuff that like began in the middle of September, all the way up and through the end of November. It's been a journey these last probably 8 to 10 weeks. It's been pretty crazy. And then all of a sudden, one day I weighed myself and I looked and I went, "Oh wow!" And
Congratulations.
That's also a wonderful thing that could happen with us, to know that those 15 pounds was simply energetic protection that I was surrounding my being, my heart space with, to protect myself or stay in defense of all of my old stories and all of my old wounding that really is not relevant today.
There you go. I want to take a moment here to acknowledge Walter Scott says, and I'm going to invite Ev for you to break this statement down. The question, actually, he says is, are you in your business, God's business, or someone else's business? What does that mean to you, Ev?
Brother, I'm a man of faith. If you don't hold some sort of faith, what does God mean to you? You know, you got to understand, you know, what sort of business are you on here? You know, are you on the busyness ride where your life is just on autopilot? Or are you under a soul path where you are strictly here on a mission to help light up this frequency on this planet under divine source? You know, there's got to be one point within our life, my brothers and sisters, if you haven't felt it over the last 3 years, man, let alone 2022 and those 2 years where we had to an opportunity to do the reset, then you must be feeling some sort of divine guidance, particularly our 15 or 16 brothers and sisters out there now. Because all of the abundance that I'm currently in, that's my ancestors, man. That's these angelic beings, man. That's source, man. I call them my A-team, the ascension team. It's a choice. It's a choice.
I just imagined Mr. T on your angelic A-team, Evis. That was a great thought, man.
So we have a comment here from I may pronounce the name Chitaha. Says, I can't free my life until I hold the people accountable who caused me the harm.
I saw that. Yeah.
What do you guys? Yeah, please do. Please jump in, and Josh, you could piggyback.
And I want to honor that because I did see that come up. And is it Titaha? Beautiful name. Yeah. And I think maybe first time that they may be on the show.
Yeah.
And when I saw that comment come up, one thing that, you know, obviously comes to my attention is that if you're allowing other people's to hold on to your power, you will never be able to set yourself free.
Say that again, please.
If you are holding on to other people, to hold on to being able to set yourself free, you will never be able to set yourself free, my brother or sister out there. You can set yourself free. It's you. It's holding the accountability for your own life. It's holding your responsibility for your own life. That way we take back that energetic exchange, whatever, and I'll give you so much respect on whatever harm they cause to your life, but we take back the power of that story. I hope that makes sense.
They say, yes, perfect. It is the name of my son who was murdered by the government.
Yeah, bless you. And life is hard. Awful things happen and we can't control others. But holding on to, I mean, deep anger and you'll make yourself sick. That's where dis-ease lives in that. And just because we, you know, how many times have we ever got and I'm sorry from the ones that we really wished we could hear it from? Hardly ever, maybe a few times, you know, for deep, big things like this. So to first let go of an expectation that that'll ever happen, and then take back control, just like Ev was saying, of what we do have control over, which is thinking about it, giving it energy, giving it power, keeping that story alive. We can let go, we can forgive, And we can lean into loving ourselves, and loving ourselves is choosing what to hold our attention, and like Jeff was saying, what our energy on. That's self-love. And that's where we take back our control and our power, and we can generate those good, grateful feelings in our body, which releases those good chemicals and combats disease. It doesn't give it a place to live. But when we harbor so much anger, and believe me, I did it. And I had a guy that caused me financial pain for a long time. And I had a face to blame too. And I get the temptation of wanting to be, to every time that it comes back up, or every time that I couldn't finance something because my financial life was ruined, I had a face to blame. However, it's not helpful. It's not supportive. It's not loving to hold that hate.
Well, there's another component to it too, Josh, which is when we ask, would the individual that transitioned, in this case, her son that was murdered, would he want her to be suffering right now?
Right.
Most likely he would want her to honor his life and keep his life going through memories and stories. I could tell you guys, and that's just for you, this is for our viewers, is that until I hit my rock bottom, and I was hours from death back in 15, massive medical conditions, all due to my mind and my life choices. But part of that was I really struggled with that feeling of injustice in life. Injustice. And those feelings of injustice, until we are able to truly come to terms with them, we will always be living in bondage and in pain. And especially in this situation here, as you shared, and thank you for sharing that with us this evening, we are here to honor you. And by no means are we suggesting that you don't. We understand we're not trying to minimize your pain that you're walking through and working through, hopefully. But ultimately, there's two things that really have helped me in my own spiritual journey. One is that it's about acceptance that even though perhaps we face a catastrophic event like an unexpected death, if we understand that part of what happens for us in our life is that we all have our own soul journey. And even though we may not be aligned with that for somebody else that we care so deeply about, that we love, it ultimately, that was part of your son's soul journey. That was how it ended for him. Now, it doesn't make it right. It doesn't mean that we minimize what happened by any means. But what helps me navigate through those feelings of injustice is really embracing the idea around the soul journey, and as well as not letting that individual die as it relates to sharing their stories and keeping them alive through your stories that you can share. And so I want to take a moment here to kind of shift us moving forward in our show this evening, as we continue to dive deep into episode 129, which is basically, are we letting go of our old life to live our real best one?
Mm-hmm. And what we mean by real life, and not saying to live your new life, is that it might be new to you, but your real life is who you are underneath the stories, the armor, like Jeff was talking about, and these old beliefs that we've been holding on to that don't serve us anymore. Once we start to shed that and let all of that go, the real us comes to light underneath. And it's a beautiful journey. It's a loving journey. For so many years, I was caught in the seeking mode. I thought I had to go to the next seminar and read the next self-help book, and that somebody's wisdom outside of myself was going to be the answer for me. And I ended up coming back to self and learning that it's not anybody else's wisdom outside of us. It's the wisdom in us, and of us and who we are. It's our truth. It's who we are at our core that is dying to come out. It's that amazing individual you that you are, that nobody else on this planet can be except you. And that's the true you. That's the real you. And it might be a new you to you as it emerges, but it's the real you that lives underneath all that stuff.
Mm.
Damn, Jay, really put that in a few bars, brother. Yeah, man. Yeah, definitely.
I think that was the first time I've seen. Hold on, Ev. I think this is the first time I've seen Josh literally dance on Real Men Real Talk Live.
No, we saw him in the back lot. We saw him at the back lot of his work, man.
Yep.
When was that?
Thanks, Ev.
I forget what show it was, but he was in his lot at his work.
I danced on the back lot of Sony.
There you go. Okay.
With people watching.
Yeah, man.
Hey.
Beautiful.
It's our life to live.
So how do we change the trajectory of our life as we are approaching 5 weeks left to this year of 2022? And because it really is about, are we in control? Do we want to be in control? And how much control do we want to be in? As opposed to, can we live our best life, our real life that we were born to live, without trying to control every single outcome? What do
you know what popped up for me, and this is one of the things that has popped up for me in this time period that I never really knew, was I have my entire life been striving to be perfect. I've been striving to be perfect. And if I had the perfect body, which I bodybuilded for 20 years, piled on tons of armor, pounded weights, thinking that if I got the perfect body, then I'm going to be loved. And then realizing that there are things I've been doing in my life to be perfect. Now, in some ways, that has served me as a photographer to do that in a different way. But within my personal who I am, I've been finding that everything has been striving to be perfect.
And didn't it strip you of the joy, Jeff?
Of course. So it wasn't about living. It wasn't about being in the moment. It was always that energetic striving to be perfect no matter what I was doing. The perfect body, the perfect beard, the perfect haircut, whatever I needed to have perfect. It was this constant striving to do that, which took up so much of my life that unconsciously and subconsciously that I didn't even realize it. So it took the joy out of living life.
How do you bring it back? I'm speaking to you, Jeff, and give us an example.
Well, awareness that's what I was doing.
Okay.
I mean, just total, like, oh my God, I didn't even realize it. And wow, you know what? That's a behavior. That's a behavior fueled by a wounded child, fueled by programming, conditioning from mom. And once I realized it, because I didn't even know I was doing it, I had no clue that I was striving to be perfect in everything that I did. And then, like the wounded boy, look, it reminds me of when I was at Parsons in New York, when we come out of the darkroom with a print and bring it to my mentor, my teacher. and go up. And I remember, this is a memory that popped up, and I was in my early 30s doing this, how this little child would go up to Cabrera and say, look, look, look. It was amazing what came up. And I was striving in my entire life, even up until a month ago. Just everything I needed to be perfect. So the question I have is, where are you still striving for something in your life, whatever that may be, and you might not realize it, and try to become aware of that, because for me, it took over my life. Yeah. And I really didn't even realize it was taking over my beingness in life.
You know, what's interesting, Jeff, is I just had a memory come back. My own experience now in my marriage, I always felt the need to tell my wife something that I had just completed or done. And I didn't know then, well, there's a lot that I didn't know then, but what I didn't know then was that what I understand today was at the root of that was that I lacked self-love. And I was always looking to my partner to acknowledge me. And that was just an indication. That was just a symptom of a lack of self-love. It's very rare that I do that today. In my life today, I take care of something, I take care of it. I don't need to rent a billboard on the side of the 405 freeway in downtown LA and let everyone know that I just did something. It doesn't matter.
Or do it on Instagram.
Right? It's not important. It's not important once we fill our own cup up and we create a relationship within ourselves, and then we could meet our own needs, and we don't need someone else to acknowledge what we've just done. So we get a pat on the back, good job. And that for me was a huge repeat occurrence in my relationship. And it wasn't for any other reason. It had very little to do with how she showed up. It had to do with how I felt about myself within. Now I'm talking about as a man, as a married man with children and the whole thing. Yet I was hiding behind a veil of a successful business, suit and tie, corporate America. But within, I wasn't okay. And that's how I showed up. That's how I was seeking to be acknowledged, because I didn't know how to acknowledge myself for myself. And that's not our partner's role. It's nice once in a while to get an affirmation, to hear, to get acknowledgement. But on a daily basis, that's my responsibility to fill myself up. What do you make of that, Evis Love?
Yeah, that's where it is. Power of love, isn't it? From those early days, we're being programmed. We got rewarded for, whether we got the A+ or we got, the grades at school. And that was based on the external, from someone else outside of ourselves. So from that point, if we don't have these solutions to show ourselves that gratitude or fulfill our own cups like you're talking about, we abandon ourselves. We get down on ourselves. And what happens is we start painting this picture like you're talking about, Jeff, about perfection. Firstly, how can you perfect what is already perfect? If you are made in the image of God, aren't you perfect already, brothers and sisters? So this is about loving your imperfections as well. I'm perfection, imperfection. So when we love all of these parts of ourselves, brothers and sisters, stop telling ourselves, I'm not good enough, I'm not perfect, then we have full acceptance of who we are. And it was one of the beliefs that I wanted to talk about this morning on that video, because it's so important with all the shit that is out on social media that people still compare themselves to, what is so called the perfect life. or the perfect lifestyle that is being portrayed out there. So like Jeff was talking about earlier, where are you pointing your focus, my brothers and sisters? It is really key as we go into this new way of life, particularly as we go into 2023, when we've been asking ourselves, have we now got this ability to be able to paint this story what we want to see? You know, ask yourself, do you truly believe in your own heart, in your own being, that you deserve the best, the real life? You know, are you still looking at those failures or mistakes as a low, or are you going to start accepting them as lessons? This is about not feeling less than, my brothers and sisters, but feeling the lesson to receive that beautiful gift to move forward.
I think we got a show right there. I think we could just call it a wrap.
Massive show,
just
man.
Sail off into the sunset. I do want that was beautiful, Ev. I want to acknowledge this is a long one, but bear with me here. Beverly Annette says, our soul screams to live, and our mind just keeps tugging and pulling based on old stories and patterns. It isn't until we get out of our head and realize we are not our thoughts that we can see the light of our own love that we have craved. We need to sit back and love the little child and let them know they are safe and loved. Stop believing the lies of the mind. Live from your heart. Amen. Sister Beverly Annette, I couldn't have said that we've said it many times, but sometimes it's nice to have it in writing right here, right now. What do you make of that? What do you make of that, Josh?
She nailed it.
Right?
She nailed it. I mean, that's
good. Good, Jeff. My thought is that's amazing and wonderful. My caveat is, are you ready to put in the work in the inner process to do that? You know, one of the things that when off the off chance that I scroll through social media, which I really don't do anymore, and I see those constant memes, and I used to put up those memes every single day for a long time, until I went, you know, we can be memed out in this world, in this life.
I think we are.
And I see them, what Beverly said could be one of those huge long memes on, I think, am I pronouncing the world right? You know, is it a meme? Is that what it is? My question always is, are you ready to commit to yourself, to do the inner work, to live and be that meme? Because a meme or an inspirational speech is not going to heal you.
Really? Then what will?
Actually, what did Josh say earlier? Or
how
you,
much time we got?
going to the next 3-day intensive? You know, keep constantly looking.
I did them all.
Outside of yourself. And I've been saying this for a long time. It's like, are you ready to make the commitment to yourself to heal what you need to heal in this lifetime, so we can live? When I heard Ev said the real life, for me, it's more about, are we ready to live in the moment of now in our adult life?
And here's the thing we get stuck on. Just because how many mountains we had to climb to come to this answer and to come home to us, that amount of effort, years. I mean, we've all spent years coming home to ourselves. Just because it was that hard to get to the point of realizing doesn't mean that the answer is equally hard to do. Now, I'm going to say that again. It isn't equally hard to do as it was to get here. That's the other problem our mind does. Well, it took me, 10 years to reach this point of realizing it's got to be super hard to do. Like you're just saying, do the work, right? The work can be kind. It can be loving. It can be simple. And it can be easy if we allow it, if we let go of our belief that it's hard and we let go of these stories and try doing everything differently. Totally. Yeah. But it doesn't have to be as hard as it was getting here.
And it only becomes easy and effortless when you are aligned to this real that we're talking about.
How do you get aligned to it?
Well, that's where the journey work started. So what Josh is saying there, when you peel back the layers, you simply are peeling back the layers that you never were. So it is not revealing the whole new. It's just coming back to who you always were.
The journey is it's not about creating new. It's remembering, coming back to remembering. So we're coming back to remembering who we are innately by going into the wounding, facing the feelings, going through the pain, moving through it. When we release those layers of wounding, we're coming back to the innate being that we are.
And wasn't it
Go ahead.
Like sitting with our child self and sitting with the pain for the first time? Do you remember doing that?
I've been
like
doing
the
that
first
for
time you
3
ever
months.
tried. But the first time you ever tried sitting with the pain that you spent decades running from, drinking to numb. I mean, it wasn't as hard to sit with it as the torture we did for decades, getting to that pain and running from it and numbing and doing all the other avoidance stuff that we did, right? I mean, actually going through it, sure, it's hard, but it's only hard once. Think of the hundreds or even thousands of times we've driven ourselves crazy avoiding that. It only takes one time to go through it consciously.
So check this out. Josh, real quick. Beverly says, I never knew who I was. I was lost. I found myself when I let go. What do you think she means by that, Josh? What does she mean by when I let go? What was she letting go of, do you think?
Everything.
The stories, right?
We find ourselves
expectations, stories, control. There's many things we let go of.
Well, yeah, I mean, letting go is personal. What did you let go of? What did you move through? What did you accept to let go? Letting go of not accepting where you are in the moment. That's personal. I think it's a really personal.
Letting go of
for each and every one of us.
Seeking, letting go of, proving, justifying, blaming, shaming.
Yep. Jay gave a great example earlier with his, in his ex-wife. Like I always wanted to show her something wonderful that I did. That's our wounded little child inside, needing to get approval from mom.
There you go.
Which is what that for most of us probably we never got. No matter how hard we tried, when we were 5, 10, 15, and even 20 to go to mom. I remember when I started, when I was doing photography as a living, and my parents came to my apartment in Manhattan, and I was in the dark room, and I had 2 big racks that would dry my prints, and I would leave them out overnight so the prints in the morning would be dry, and then I would take them off the rack and I put the racks away. Well, one day my parents came over and I had 1 rack out, and my mother walked over and she looked at it, and she hadn't a clue what she was looking at. And it just hit me in that moment. Holy shit. I've been trying to prove to my mother all along with what I'm doing. And she was looking at this print going, and she didn't know what she was looking at. If that is not, wasn't a metaphor for this wounded little boy trying to prove to mom, and my mother's there going, it's not Regis and Kathy Lee. I can't get it, you know? And that was so hilarious that I remember that. And I was going, God, I've been trying to get my wounded little boy has been trying to prove to mom over all these years to give me some praise. And my mother's looking at a photographic print and she has no clue what she's looking at. Is that not the ultimate
irony
of it? It's like, holy crap.
I want to acknowledge Jason Newport coming in over. He's an Aussie, I believe, coming in from Australia. We had a beautiful conversation through written communication in the last 24 hours. But he says, who were you before the world changed you? We need to find the most honest, authentic version of ourselves.
Boom.
And, you know, many people spend a lifetime putting in a different address, thinking that the GPS system is going to take them to a new place to find themselves. And what I've learned is that I didn't have to go too far, although I've lived in, people ask me, why have I lived in so many states in the US of A? I've lived in 10 states. And the reason being was that I was always on a journey to find myself. I just kept
running,
packing the boxes and the bags and the furniture and the moving truck and thinking that was going to bring me to the promised land. And the promised land was always there. It was right within my own self, in my heart, in my soul, in my body. Mm-hmm. And, you know, unfortunately, although I could say that there was a lot of blessings that came from each relocation or each move, it was very difficult on my family, very difficult. And I never took that into consideration because I created the opportunity and then I would sell it. Right. But the truth is here I am right here, right now, being a real man, telling on myself. That wasn't the truth. The truth was that I was irritable. I was discontent. I was not happy. And it had much to do with just how I felt about myself. And, you know, today I'm just so grateful. I'm so grateful that I have that awareness. I can own it. You know, if any of my children were to ask me that same question, because they don't watch I don't believe they watch my show. If they do, they're quiet. Honestly, my show, our show, let me back that, our show here. But what happens for me today is that we get to take accountability as men, and we get to own our truth, our past, and our present. Now, it doesn't mean that I sit in it and I do not go to guilt and shame today, because that will never, ever serve me or you, any of you. And nor will blame. Because as long as we're in guilt, shame, or blame, we're not taking accountability for how we can change, be the change maker in our own trajectory in this thing called life today. We can't change the past, but what we can change is how we show up today. What do you make of that, Jeff Fasano?
Do the inner work. Once we, you know, it's like, it's really about, I think it's about starting. If we really want to start this journey or continue the journey, moment by moment is always asking ourselves the question, can I accept exactly where I am, wherever I am in this journey? And start in that place.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful.
You know,
I want to point this out real quick, Jeff. Terry says, I haven't found my purpose. I'm going to invite you to kind of switch gears here. And why don't you share some insights?
Terry looks like 2 years old. Terry, it's okay. You'll find your purpose later, buddy. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. So how could we respond in a way of inspiration for Terry, where Terry's acknowledged across the globe right now? Terry
I did an interesting exercise only about a month and a half ago, where I wrote my own mission statement. Now, do a Google search, because I had to. What is in a mission statement? I knew the high level idea, but I was like, all right, what do I include? How do I format this? So I literally Google searched writing a mission statement for your business. And we are our business, right? We're our own brand. We're our own story. We're our own. So yeah, Google search writing a mission statement, and a great exercise before next year. And in this reinvention of self would be to write your own mission statement, discover what's at your core, what was always there when you were a kid. What is that natural state of you before we got all this programming from the world? What did you love to do as a kid? What were you passionate about then? What did you stay up at night dreaming about or thinking about instead of sleeping? What gets you excited? What fires up that, that little tickly part inside of you? So write your mission statement based on that, and I swear you will be really, really, really surprised with what comes out. It was awesome. I loved it.
Love that, brother.
That would be my idea.
I love what the ladies are saying out there too. Like Mary, as simple as asking, what are you passionate about? Now, Beverly says, what warms your heart? Where is your passion? The things that bring you joy, happiness.
Follow your joy.
These are beautiful
there's
questions to ask yourself.
So many people out there don't even know what that is. What if I was to say that our purpose in life is to love ourselves?
Boom.
Deep.
And end of show.
Simple, not easy.
Our purpose in life is to learn how to love. First ourselves and then another. Everything else you could look at. If I was to ask that person, what do you mean by that? When people think about purpose, it's about what am I doing outside of myself? What am I doing outside of myself? As opposed to what am I doing within myself? That is where you find your purpose. Your purpose could even be asking the question, what is my biggest challenge in life? What's my biggest challenge within me? And then by finding your biggest challenge, for me, my biggest challenge in life is to learn how to love myself. I transferred that, going back to Dre, trying to prove to everybody that I'm this, that I'm perfect, that I'm that. Look at me, look at that. Here, Mom, look at this print. Hi, Mom. Hey, look at me. Look at these biceps. Look at my hair. Look at this great beard. It was always outside of myself to prove to somebody outside of myself that I'm worthy and lovable.
There you go. Boom. I want to just piggyback what you just shared, Jeff. That's brilliant. Mary Kelly coming in from Sedona. She says, how about learn who I am first? And to me, that really is a great strategy. If we're trying to figure out what our passion is, before we could figure out our passion, I think we got to first kind of come home.
Yep.
We got to come home to return to love of self, to then know. Look, I spent 40 years in corporate America, and my life is very different today. Why? Because it wasn't until I hit my rock bottom that I was able to begin the journey of really identifying everything that wasn't working in my life anymore. And at the root of all that, I had lost myself. I've said this to you guys before, even on the show. I had lost my identity. I'd lost who I was. I knew who I had become, but I had lost who I was born to be, and I'd lost contact with my own heart or soul space. And for me to figure out or understand what my true passions in life was, I first had to figure out who I was. I had to learn who I was. I had to come back home on that incredible, beautiful, loving journey of returning home to love of self. And that journey, so many people are fearful of it. They're afraid of what they will find. I've heard this in 12-step rooms years ago. Somebody would raise their hand and say, well, if I let go of who I am or what I become, who will I be? I'm afraid of that. And I'm here to tell all of you, all of our viewers and listeners tonight, there is nothing to be afraid of. Who you were born to be is an absolute beautiful human being. And it's the trajectory of life. It's a circumstances. It's a family that we believe some choose to be born into. Others may not believe that. But it is a journey. And ultimately, we say life is a bookend. You got the birth date and you have your end date or your death date. And the bookend is less important than what we do in between those two dates. And all I can tell you is that if anyone had said to me that I would be doing what I'm doing in my life today, having exited out of a very successful career in business and showing up in a very different way in my life today, I would have been like, oh, there's no way that I could ever, that's not who I am. But the truth is I am more of that person than I was the person I became. I am living my best, true, authentic life that I know how to live today. And showing up every day with an intention of coming from love, coming from kindness, being patient with myself and others, letting go of as much judgment as I can, and embracing the idea around we all have our own soul journey to live. And if we don't get it in this lifetime, and some of these individuals may be loved ones, people we care about, could be our parents, could be our spouses, our partners, our children, our friends. But ultimately, it is a journey. It is a soul journey. And all it takes is just a little bit of courage to step in, to find yourself, the part of you that perhaps you abandoned in your adulthood. And so I want to invite each one of you. Yeah.
I was going to say, I have one thing to add to that, and beautiful, Jay. Thank you. And I didn't want to run over time, but I did want to add this, a quote that changed on the topic of your purpose. A quote that changed my life. And I've talked about it in the past, was somebody's email campaign. I can't even remember how I got on the email list, but the quote was, "What you are most afraid of is your greatest gift to the world." Now, at that time, my biggest fear would have been going public on a platform like this and telling the world that I had become an alcoholic, that I was blaming and shaming everything around me, and that I was terrified of not being loved, and that I was out in the world giving so that I could receive, because I was that much of a hurting little boy inside. I was a little boy operating in the world, terrified that I would be found out. So for me to come on a platform like this and tell on myself week after week, this is my biggest fear. However, it has been the greatest joy of my life coming here and telling on myself to all of you the love that I have received in return for myself from connecting with these beautiful three men has been my biggest joy week over week over week. And so, yes, what I was very most afraid of in this world has been my greatest gift.
Wow, brother. Wow.
You got me again, Josh.
Magic.
Sorry, not sorry, Jay.
No, don't be sorry.
We love you,
Thanks for
brother.
showing that word. Wow. How about you, Ev? What do you got? What do you make of what Josh just said and Josh just shared? And what is this? What is, not that we need to go there, but I'd like to go there since Josh, you went there. What has this platform, what is this talk show? How has it impacted your own life, would you say?
And we're opening up another show altogether here, particularly around purpose. I think it's so important because to me, it just sits underneath the totem pole of vision for me. You know, when I'm able to have a clear vision of my life, what I'm doing down here, what I'm about, my path, my soul plan, then it allows those passions to come through of what I'm naturally good at to start molding this purpose of mine. Now, I talked about, being able to use these hands to get back into my artwork this year. Now, that was a natural gift to me. That was naturally what I was born with. So if you're not aware of some of these gifts within your own life, which for me then really comes underneath that purpose, those talents, gifts, and capabilities, then maybe ask some people around you. And that's, for a question our brother or sister was asking out there, ask those people that you trust and that that you have close around you. Ask them, what do they feel that you're naturally good at? Spend time with yourself and ask yourself, how would you spend your time? And this is a big one we need to ask ourselves, brothers and sisters, in a monetary-free world. How would you spend your time through the day if you didn't feel that you had to pay the bills, you didn't have to buy this or consume that? How would you spend your time? And so when you're able to ask those couple of questions, now going back to what a couple of our sisters had also mentioned, what makes you feel alive? Man, I know when I'm painting, I'm alive, man. There's some hours that I go for in the morning where I don't even feel that I'm the person behind the wheel with the paintbrush because I'm in flow. What feels effortless? What feels at ease at what you're doing within your life? One thing that I'll finish up here on, and I'd be very certain that I would never want to take to the grave, not only on how this show has really impacted my life, but is how do you impact the lives of others? Let me say that again. How do you impact the lives of others? To me, my brothers and sisters, that is the deepest question that we can all honor ourselves, not only on our own soul path, our soul plan, all this real life that we're talking about, but for those other brothers and sisters that you may be creating the ripple effect that you may not even be aware of.
Yep.
Beautiful, Al. Thank you for sharing that. Jeff, you're up.
Well, you know what? It doesn't have to be when people, Ev, when you say that, I think many people, and before every show, Jay says this: let's impact that one person tonight. So when we think of that, how am I impacting the lives of others? Maybe people could just go and like, what? Okay, do I have to go out and do TED Talks? Do I have to go out and speak to thousands of people, create something big? No. When we do the inner work and move in ourselves, and we heal what we need to heal on that journey, whatever we learn along the way, there might be somebody who might come into our life, and more than likely will, who might be on a similar path that we are, and we can impart some of the tools that we've used, what we're doing here, sharing what has happened in our lives to that one person, that one kid. It doesn't have, Clarence Darrow said this: if I'm speaking to a room full of 100 people and one person is affected by it, I've done my job.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't mean that you've got to go out and affect thousands of people. Maybe cumulatively over your lifetime, you will. But if you could just, by doing that inner work, becoming conscious and aware of your process, of our process, and somebody comes along and is having a bad day, with whatever you choose to use by grabbing into your toolbox of how you've moved through stuff in your life, sharing that with that one person who's having a lousy day, a lousy week, a lousy month, and calls you, you can impact their life one person at a time.
Beautiful. Jeff, I want to take a moment here. I want to acknowledge and welcome Angelina Deacon to the show tonight. She says, "You have all really helped me tonight. I found your page by accident." There are no accidents, by the way, Angelina. Perhaps you showed up right on time, as I say. But really, I needed your wise words that I know, but sometimes I give up on.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Josh, close us out. Say something to Angelina right now that perhaps maybe will give her one additional dose of comfort as she may be snuggling under the blanket this evening. I'm not sure what part of the world you're coming in from, Angelina. We'd love to know where you call home tonight. But I want to welcome you to our talk show, to our podcast. We hope we see you on a future episode. We always come in live Thursday nights, 6 p.m. West Coast, California, 9 p.m. on the East Coast of US of A. But welcome home. Welcome to Real Men, Real Talk Live. This show is for all of us. It's not just for men. But it was the intention of the show was to show up as our authentic selves, removing the veil, removing the armor that as men, each one of us four at some point in our life showed up holding on to for dear life. And today we have stripped that armor bare naked, and we show up to our best ability as our authentic self right here, right now. So welcome home, Angelina. She says she's in the UK.
Wow.
It's 3 a.m.
Wait a minute.
Holy shit. Thanks for joining us.
We have Jillian Bowie, who comes in at 3 a.m. as well quite often from Scotland, right? She's from Scotland. Mm-hmm. So she said she couldn't sleep because of her PTSD is so bad. Well, hopefully put on some good relaxing meditation music and or listen to the replay on the show. Maybe that'll put you to sleep tonight. You never know.
Yeah, maybe the four of us hearing our voices again, Angelina, will put you to sleep.
Well, there you go. That's kind of what I was insinuating.
Hopefully not that boring, Jeff.
We've gone way over tonight. We've gone way over tonight, but it's okay, because last week was Thanksgiving and I missed the show before that. I was in a tailspin. But again, the last show that we did, 128, you could pick up all of our replays on our YouTube channel. There's a playlist that has all the archived prior content programs. The last show, you guys were on fire. I watched it live in bed, and then I watched the replay later that same night because I was just absolutely in awe of how you all showed up. An amazing show, 128, a couple of weeks ago. But in any event, I think it's time to put a pretty bow in the show and call it a wrap. What do you make of that, gentlemen?
Beautiful show, as always, brothers and sisters. Thank you. Yeah, it's been lit out in the chat tonight.
I can't wait to go back and read.
Look, there's a lot of. I just want to finish on this note too, Jay. There's a lot of distractions out here on social media at the moment. So by you guys sharing this out onto your own pages, being able to spread this message out there, it helps not only us, but it helps some of these more let's say, higher vibratory messages, maybe a better words for it. But some messages that are really coming through, particularly in our last few shows, that are really important versus some of the distractive entertainment that's currently out there. Because brothers and sisters, there's going to be so many distractions out there to really start getting in the way of that story that you want to tell, that we're talking about tonight. So please share it out into the community.
Beautiful. Well, I think also why I've let this show go a little longer than normal is I've missed you guys. I've missed this connection live on air, coming into LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and delay on Roku TV and streaming on Amazon Fire. I've enjoyed this evening. I don't want it to end. I feel about 8 years old right now, I think.
Well, we're on 222, man. That's a good time.
But, the good news is that we actually show up. We have a post-show production meeting where we sometimes spend 30 minutes to another hour or more just kind of breaking down what came forward for us and what we saw and heard this evening. So on that note, I want to actually thank all of you guys for joining us, all of our viewers for joining us, for my co-hosts for showing up tonight, right on time. I love you all. Thank you for joining us this week on Real Men, Real Talk Live.